The first burial began with stillness. That was the art's first cruelty. Pain made stillness difficult. Hunger made stillness feel wasteful. Fear made stillness seem like death. The 9 burials withering root art demanded stillness before motion because it wanted the cultivator to prove the root was not already obeying its wound. Lin Fan sat beside the basin with his legs crossed, spine straight, and hands resting on his knees. The dead chamber breathed around him. Green light pulsed through petrified roots. The cracked basins whispered with old ash. The half-root shaving inside the dosage paper leaked bitter decay into the air. The whole basin's dark water remained motionless beside him, waiting for reflection. He did not circulate qi. He counted. 9 breaths to quiet surface pain. 9 breaths to separate root heat from shoulder pain. 9 breaths to distinguish poison ring from green-black thread. 9 breaths to feel the assigned weakness buried beneath memory. Low grade. Waste. Outer disciple. Beaten. Dismissed. Contaminated. Unstable. Interesting. Worth observing. Each word carried a different pressure. Some came from the first life. Some from the spirit root pillar. Some from Elder Gu. Some from the outer disciples who now feared him in small ways. The art did not ask him to deny them. It asked him to bury them correctly. Burying was not rejecting. A buried thing fed roots. Lin Fan opened his eyes. He unwrapped the root shaving. The small black-green fragment lay on the paper like a curved claw. The paper had browned further. If he waited much longer, the shaving would either dry into useless ash or seep enough decay qi to stain his sleeve. He lifted it with the basin shard and placed it on his tongue. The taste was immediate. Bitter earth. Old blood. Rotten bark. Cold lightning. The body tried to vomit. Lin Fan did not allow it. He pressed the shaving against the roof of his mouth and let it soften. Decay qi entered through the tongue, thin at first, then in a sudden rush. It moved toward the throat, heart, dantian. The poison ring around his root junction opened greedily. Do not let hunger choose. Lin Fan closed the ring. The decay qi struck the closure and spread along the outer layer, forming a thin dark halo around the ring. Pain followed the halo, circular and slow. The art's first step settled into place. Stabilize impurity ring. He guided breath downward, not qi. Breath carried intention more safely through a weak body. The poison ring rotated once, jagged edges scraping the root junction. He slowed it. Rotated again. Slower. A third time. The ring became more even, not smooth, but less likely to cut unpredictably. The chamber approved. Green light deepened. Lin Fan ignored approval. Identify assigned weakness. The basin water beside him darkened. Images rose without invitation. The spirit root pillar showing weak green light. Zhang Hu laughing. Elder Gu looking away in the first life. The old 16-year-old Lin Fan kneeling in mud after a failed breakthrough. The outer disciples whispering contaminated root. The official record, wood root, contaminated, unstable mid-grade response. The words tried to gather into a shape. A name. Weakness. Lin Fan let the shape form. Then he folded it. Not crushed. Not burned. Folded. The art required a burial mark, and a burial mark needed form. He compressed the label weakness into a dark green knot and placed it beneath the poison ring in his inner sight. The root recoiled instinctively. It did not want the label beneath it. Good. Roots grew by pushing through what resisted. Draw decay qi through the ring, not the root. Lin Fan allowed the softened root shaving to dissolve further. Decay qi thickened. The poison ring began to rotate, drawing the qi around its outer edge. The green-black thread opened slightly, eager to drink. He closed it. Not yet. The decay qi circled the ring once. Twice. 3 times. Each cycle scraped impurity into shape. The old poison residue, meal hall contamination, root stress from the spirit root test, and withering chamber chi began to layer together. Not healing. Not purging. Burying. Lin Fan's body shook. This time, he allowed it. No witnesses. No need for a calm face. The tremor passed through spine, shoulders, jaw, and fingers. It was not weakness leaving. It was weakness being ground into material. Sweat slid down his temples. Blood rose into his mouth around the dissolving root shaving. He swallowed both. Compress external judgment into burial mark. The dark green knot under the root resisted compression. Public humiliation. Public reversal. Elder interest. Official notice. Fear around his door. Zheng Hu's apology. The old spirit root pillar verdict. All of it formed contradictory pressure. The art tried to seize the strongest emotion and use it as fuel. Shame. No. Anger. No. Desire to prove. No. Control. Lin Fan chose control. He pressed every external judgment into the burial mark under a single command. You do not define direction. You feed it. The burial mark compressed. The chamber's roots shivered. Let root grow through burial mark for one breath. This was the dangerous step. He opened the green-black thread. It pierced downward toward the burial mark like a young root seeking rot. The moment it touched the mark, hunger surged through Lin Fan's body. Not hunger for food. Hunger for labels, poison, decay, insults, wounds, all things that had once pressed him down. The art offered a conversion: take every weight and make it growth. Too generous. Generosity from power was always a hook. Lin Fan allowed one breath. The green-black thread drank the outer layer of the burial mark. The root junction burned cold. The poison ring tightened into a cleaner circle. The surface wood root shuddered, then extended a hair-thin secondary vein through the mark. The vein was dark at the tip, green behind it, and sharper than any natural low-grade wood root should be. One breath ended. Close before hunger chooses. The thread did not want to close. For the first time, it resisted him with real force. Hunger had tasted success. It wanted more. More decay chi. More poison. More shame. More root material. More. The observer's ring stirred faintly. Lin Fan's expression turned cold. No. He closed the thread. Pain struck so hard that the chamber vanished from sight. For one moment, he stood elsewhere. Not physically. Memory, pressure, or something between. He saw heavenly void peaks red sky. The execution blade through his chest. Qin Mo's ruined eye. Su Wan's bloodless face. The black chain passing through his soul. The observer beyond the world looking without eyes. The hunger in the green-black thread reached toward that memory. It wanted to bury death too. Lin Fan seized the hunger by its root and crushed it back into the burial mark. Not that. The chamber trembled. The memory snapped away. He returned to the root burial chamber with blood running from his nose. The green-black thread had closed. Barely. The poison ring rotated once around the new burial mark, smoother than before. The surface wood root looked weaker for a moment, then steadied. The hair-thin dark-tipped secondary vein remained. First burial incomplete? No. Incomplete by the art's appetite. Complete enough for his purpose. Lin Fan opened his eyes. The basin water reflected him now. Pale face. Blood under nose. Dark eyes. Mud on robe. Injured shoulder. Weak body. Behind the reflection, beneath the surface, a root shadow curled around a buried green knot. Foundation transformation had begun. Not dramatic. Not visible to a spirit root pillar unless tested carefully. But real. The chamber pulsed around him. Characters appeared above the dead stump. First burial accepted. Hunger restrained. Root direction unchosen. Scaffold formed. Lin Fan read the lines and exhaled slowly. The art had done what he required. The poison ring no longer scraped randomly. It had become a controlled burial ring. The green-black thread remained open but more obedient after being denied. The surface root still looked weak, but its secondary vein now had a path through impurity rather than around it. His foundation had not strengthened much in raw power. It had become less wrong. That mattered more. The dead stump opened again, showing the remaining half of the root shaving. Offering. Temptation. If he took it, the first burial could deepen. Strength would come faster. So would hunger. He could perhaps reach a stable mid-grade equivalent root response within days instead of weeks. Too expensive. He left it. The chamber's roots tightened, displeased. Lin Fan stood carefully. His legs were numb. His abdomen felt hollowed out and refilled with cold soil. Blood dripped from his nose again. He wiped it away with his sleeve. "Open the path," he said. The circular door did not move. Of course. Ancient inheritances respected success less than appetite. It wanted him to cultivate longer. It wanted him to take the second half. It wanted another burial, another layer, another thread of dependence. Lin Fan walked to the door and placed his bloodied finger on the mark he had drawn earlier. Pain anchor. Open. The door remained still. He pressed the burial ring around his root and let a thin trace of controlled decay chi enter the blood mark. The mark darkened. The door shuddered. "Open," Lin Fan repeated, voice flat, "or I return with fire." The chamber did not fear fire in the ordinary sense. But the remaining half of the root shaving did. The dead stump's roots curled protectively around it. The circular door opened. Good. The inheritance had priorities. He stepped toward the exit. At the threshold, the chamber's green light suddenly bent toward him again. Not to stop him. To mark him. A thin root shadow touched his back, just below the neck, and vanished before he could cut it off. Lin Fan froze. Inside his root junction, the burial ring remained stable. No active invasion. On his back, he felt nothing. But in the chamber's pressure, a new line appeared. First return recognized. Lin Fan turned slowly. First return. Not first burial. Not first disciple. First return. The chamber's roots stilled as if the words had not appeared. The observer's ring stirred sharply, then went silent. Lin Fan's eyes narrowed. The hidden inheritance had reacted to something beyond this life. Not fully. Not with understanding. But enough to use the word return. The ending hook had arrived too early. He stepped out of the chamber and began climbing before the inheritance could reveal whether it had recognized him as a reborn cultivator, a previous visitor from a future that no longer existed, or something touched by the observer beyond the world. Behind him, the circular door closed. In the dark, the dead stump kept its remaining half-root and waited. Lin Fan did not look back after the door closed. Looking back at a calling inheritance gave it shape in the mind. Shape became familiarity. Familiarity became habit. Habit became obedience while still calling itself choice. He had seen too many cultivators treat secret chambers like masters simply because the chamber had given them the first method that made them feel chosen. He had not been chosen. He had qualified, bargained, divided payment, taken a portion, and left before appetite set the terms. That distinction would keep him alive. The first burial ring rotated once as he climbed. Cold pain. Steadiness. The rhythm repeated. Each rotation pressed the assigned weakness deeper beneath the root, not erasing it, not healing it, but placing it where growth could use it. The process was incomplete and would remain unstable until fed with better materials. Yet compared to yesterday's chaotic poison residue, it was structure. Structure changed the future more reliably than sudden strength. The hidden inheritance had given him neither victory nor safety. It had given him a machine inside his foundation. A grave that could become a root. If he controlled it. If he fed it correctly. If he discovered why it had said return. The last condition mattered most. The word repeated in memory with each step upward. First return recognized. Return from where? From death? From a future path erased by rebirth? From some contact between his former sovereign self and this chamber that he no longer remembered? Or from the observer's experiment, which might have made his soul taste like something that had crossed a boundary this inheritance once worshipped, feared, or studied? No answer yet. Only the cold ring, the hunger, and the climb. At the top of the stairs, he stopped once more and looked back only with divine habit, not with his eyes. The circular door behind him was sealed. The pressure of the chamber sat beyond it like a buried coal. The remaining half-root waited inside the stump. That half would continue decaying now that he had divided it. Eventually, if left untouched, it might wither beyond use. More likely, the chamber would preserve it by feeding on ambient decay, making it stronger and more possessive before he returned. Time limit, then. Not immediate. But real. The inheritance had created a second clock in his life. The first belonged to Elder Gu's suspicion. The second belonged to the chamber's appetite. The third, still distant, belonged to the observer beyond the world. 3 clocks, each measuring him differently. Lin Fan preferred enemies with clocks. Clocks meant windows. He reached the antechamber and found the petrified roots still bent slightly toward the path he had taken. Their posture made the word recognition crawl again through memory. He cut the sensation off. Recognition was not loyalty. It was only information from another side. Information could be false, incomplete, baited, or useful. He would not decide which until he had more. On the last stair before the antechamber, the first burial ring gave one unexpected benefit. His root pain no longer scattered upward into the chest with each step. It gathered, circled, and returned to the root junction in a controlled loop. The pain still hurt. It simply stopped wasting itself. That small change made his balance steadier. His breath stayed lower. His right hand no longer trembled unless he opened the palm fully. This was how foundations changed battles before anyone saw a new technique. A stronger root could release more chi. A corrected root wasted less. Lin Fan preferred the second at this stage. No one looking at him today would see improvement. They would see fatigue, blood, mud, and illness. That was ideal. Improvement hidden under damage gave him a narrow advantage no one had priced. He reached the antechamber and erased the trail with moss. The act confirmed another point: the burial ring could interact with low-level decay organisms without losing control. Small, but important. Later, spirit mine sediment and medicinal pool residue would be more aggressive. This ring had survived its first tool use. Barely. Barely was enough for a first day.